So I'm out here on the Beltline in Southwest Atlanta, getting my exercise on. And I know I'm supposed to be putting this video together for this conference that you all are attending, and I hope you're having a great time. But you know, sometimes the Lord speaks to you and says, go ahead and put your video together now. I don't have any notes with me. All I know is I have a topic to speak about, which is how to engage our students today. And so hopefully it'll come out correctly as I'm on this path this morning. And so as I pass people on this Beltline, it's kind of awkward continuing to talk because you kind of look like a weirdo because they know I'm recording. But you're gonna feel like that sometimes in your classroom. You got to do something different. Your kids these days, coming back from the pandemic, they moving a little funny these days. And I don't even know what it is. And when I say that, I'm not in the classroom. I haven't been in the classroom in quite some time. As a matter of fact, it was 2007 last time I really been in the classroom giving instruction. And I've had a lot of different jobs since then. I finished and retired as assistant superintendent, but I was also a principal, a curriculum director, and I supervised principals. I was a math coach, assistant principal, all of that. So today I hope I can provide some insight to you out here in nature. They're doing construction over here. Kind of like you're doing. You need to construct these kids, and you know you have a role to play, but you need a blueprint. So our kids today, you have to be engaged. Too much technology floating around here. Every time I'm in a school building, for whatever reason, everybody's behind the desk, the students and the teachers, manipulating technological devices. What I would say is, teachers, go back old school, and it's not that old. Get up and facilitate. Everybody's using technology, so the kids are getting that 24/7, because when they go home, the devices are in their hand. When they wake up in the morning, the devices are in their hand, just like it's in our hands first thing in the morning, all day long, checking this, checking that, notifications going off. It's time to get back to some teaching in a facilitation style. That means getting up, walking in between the desks, engaging the students. Learn how to make some phone calls, texting and emailing, and group Zoom chats. It's all good. But if you want to develop relationships with your students, you need to make individual calls to the parents, particularly if you know these students are going to be a challenge. Most parents don't get positive phone calls, so the best thing to do is to start your year making a phone call before the year even starts. That's assuming that the schedules are correct. You can do this by homeroom, or you can tackle it by your whole class. Whole class meaning if you have 6 classes and you're in middle school, call them all 100 plus. I know that's a lot, but it saves you a lot in disciplinary infractions along the way during the school year. And even when you have them, the parents will be on your side because you reached out first just to introduce yourself. You got to design some time within the school day to also meet the kids where they are. The whole RTI MTSS process. Now, when I was a principal, I didn't dictate how that looked. I just wanted to see kids in the classroom receiving instruction that was different or differentiated from what they received during the regular school day. And so I didn't dictate any of that, the time, the day, or how that looked. All I wanted to see was kids in the class, particularly the ones you know they're going to struggle. Whether that's your African American kids, or your special ed kids, or your EL kids, or your ones on the spectrum that are already in the RTI or MTSS process. Bring all those kids in, and those are the ones you specialize in during your RTI or MTSS process. Again, that doesn't have to be anything formal. There have to be a lot of conversation around that. It's just kids with teachers. That method alone, when I was principal, helped us to have the highest gains in the whole metro area of Georgia. All the schools around the metro area in Metro RESA. The proof of that is the video that's posted on YouTube that the Georgia Department of Education put together, along with Georgia Public Broadcasting. Another thing that you need to consider, the curriculum is not equitable. So one of the reasons African American kids aren't engaged in the lessons because they don't see representation of themselves in history or in science or in math or in reading or any of the design's curriculums. And so it's up to you as the teacher to bring those to the forefront. There are literally thousands and thousands of characters and events that have been left out of the curriculum and out of American history. And you don't have to use your class time or take away from your students in order to implement this. All you need to do is have a list of events or a list of names ready and accessible for your students. It can be one by one, or it could be as a group, but send that information home for them to research. They're going to be Googling anyway. So if you send that home, that's going to help 3 people. It's going to help the students know their history. It's going to help the parent teach their students that history. And it's going to help the teacher become more aware of the history that has been left out. And the appreciation for you will grow. And the compassion that the parents have for you will grow. And your students will gain more respect for you if you show that you are interested in their history. And again, this is not something that has to take place on your time. This could take place at home. There's a book that was written that has 100 names of inventors, of history makers for African Americans. And all you need to do is take one of those names. But there are a lot of resources out there. And this is not just for African American kids. This could be for any kids that you have in your classroom. And you can itemize it. You don't have to give kids that aren't black the historical information because it's not in their culture. So you can itemize it as you will. Now you may get some pushback on that. Depends on the political agendas that are in your school system. But that's something that I would do. Parents request that even back in 2005, 2006. That's something that was requested regularly from my classroom. But they knew my position all along, and that was something that was introduced to them in the very beginning. Let's see, what else can you do to make your life easier? Don't be so petty. Learn to overlook some things. Learn some of the culture that you're not accustomed to. Now, there is a predominant culture in the United States of America, and we all cater to it. If you're old enough, you remember a term called code switching. Code switching is what African Americans do every day, because there's one way that we talk and dialogue when we're amongst ourselves. And then there's another way that we have to talk to handle business, like right now. So if your student population is changing, and it is, because 50% of kindergarten and first grade classes in the United States now are predominantly non-white. These are the kids that are going to be growing up over the next 12, 13 years. And this is where the information about the demographic change is coming from, because the student population is changing. And therefore, by default, the grown folk population must be also changing. And so you need to expose yourself to the different cultures that are around you. For example, I love going to restaurants and concerts and the movies and to other venues. It will behoove you to go in those environments that you serve so that you are able to understand how the interactions are. One example, when a great movie comes out, regardless of the movie, and you go to one side of town, you're able to really sit there and hear and engage in the movie. Whereas if you come to another side of town, the audience is actually interacting with the movie. They're laughing out loud, they're talking to the screen, they're giving advice. Don't let it be a horror movie. And then sometimes you miss some of the lines in the movie because everybody's talking and having a good time. Now, if you're not accustomed to that, you get aggravated. And some of you all see that in your classroom, whereas one culture is being displayed, you get upset and think it's a write-up when the student is merely being who they are. That's one example. And plus, if you show up in the neighborhood at some function, keeping safety in mind, of course, I'm not advising that you go somewhere that's unsafe, but keeping safety in mind, if safety is in place, you show up, some of your students are going to see you there, and then you gain more allies that way. These are simple solutions. It's all about the relationships. We talk about relationships. We're so busy teaching the curriculum that we forget that we are teaching kids. Kids are people too. They're going to have an opinion about their teacher, just like the parents are going to have an opinion, just like the teachers are going to have an opinion. And everybody's talking about each other. But one of the things that always drove me is if you're not going to be great at your job, then you might as well remove yourself from that position. Who wants to go somewhere every day and not be successful? And some of you are sitting in there just biding your time, not necessarily doing your best work. And you know you need to step your game up. You know you need some professional development. You know you need a better attitude. And we all have stuff going on in our lives. But if you show up to work, you need to give 100% of whatever you have that day. You might be up all night. But if you have 65% of your regular self, then your students deserve 100% of your 65% on that day. To me, that's 100%. Let's see, what else do we have? We could talk about differentiation and all of that, and all of these terms that have been thrown around for years. I think teachers, you know how to perform those tasks. We could talk about higher order thinking and rigor and whatever the new terms are that they're throwing around these days. We could talk about the implementation of artificial intelligence and how that's going to be a new platform to deliver instruction. But I'm going to tell you right now, nothing's ever going to beat that face-to-face instruction that teachers deliver on a regular basis, because the artificial intelligence derives its intelligence from the research that has been uploaded and that it collects in order to make its own informed decision. And so the best methods is for you to be able to deliver the instruction in a competent manner, which means you're going to have to know your curriculum and understand your standards. And some of them are changing constantly. You have to take the time to read your standards and understand your standards and know the scope and sequence of those standards. I know right now math is changing, this year, and the implementation rollout is this year. But it all boils down to the same thing. And this is just a side note on math, because I'm biased. I was a math teacher. The multiplication tables are going to be critical by the 3rd grade. Now, when I was a principal, that was messaging that I sent home to the school on a regular basis. It might be by call out. We had those automatic call out systems, and I know you still have those in place today. We had those newsletters. We had PTA meetings. We had school functions. Anytime I was in front of parents, because our school was struggling in mathematics, I made it a point to bring up to them. I was in middle school. I made a point to bring up to them that times tables are critical, and that's why we have a deficit in math. And some of you are going to sit back and say, oh no, they can't memorize them. I think they understand arrays. Those are not too hard to understand. So at some point, even with me, as I tutor math on these retirement days that I'm experiencing now, things are still clicking in with me in mathematics. Same thing with language arts. I learn new things all of the time. New words, new ways to structure sentences, new ways to use punctuation, new ways to write paragraphs and books. So yeah, kids need to know their timetables, and there's nothing like flashcards, which can be created with index cards bought at a store. The school can even splurge for some of this in their supply rooms, pass those out, and have a homework assignment where they create their flashcards, because middle school is too late to try to learn timetables. Although I had those students in my classroom that didn't know them proficiently, I always made an effort to catch them at the door and ask them their timetables as they walked in each day. And that facilitated them going home to try to learn them so they could get it right. And then when they came in the door, once they became proficient enough, I would have a problem written on paper, a small piece of paper, and I would hand it out to each kid as they entered the room while I took the role or did those administrative tasks that teaching requires. They worked on those problems, and I would supply the answer or walk by and give them a check mark as I walked around the room at the beginning of the class. There are a lot of ways that you get students engaged in the remedial work without it being seen as remedial. That's also a good time to spiral your instruction at the door, because your curriculum is so tight, they don't leave a lot of days and time for you to master everything. So you have to learn how to spiral your curriculum without taking away from the school day. And the best way to spiral your curriculum is at the doorway. When they come in, have some reminder assignments, or problems rather. I'm speaking of math because that's what I'm accustomed to. If you know order of operations is important, then have some order of operations problems at the door, which also usually engage multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction, and exponents, and groupings, using the associative properties and commutative properties, and just knowing that order, which is pervasive throughout all of mathematics. I'm speaking of order of operations. But the more instructional time that you're able to gain by having little downtime between your transitions, the more they're going to learn. If you're getting to the end of your class and kids are sitting around for 5 minutes, and you multiply that 5 minutes times 170, 180 days, that's a lot of instructional time over the course of the year. Besides, This is post-pandemic. And your kids are coming to you behind 9 times out of 10, regardless of their race or ethnicity. But particularly if they're African American, they were behind before the pandemic. So I can only imagine what's going on now. So you don't have time to be running out of lesson. Like, what are you doing? Ain't no such thing as running out of lesson. There's always something that needs to be taking place instructionally in the classrooms today. Because we're losing a lot of kids because they can see they have other alternative ways to learn on their phone. So if we're continuing down the same road, for example, with history that I mentioned earlier, with African Americans, they know all of that stuff that they're learning is not the whole story. I have these algorithms on my phone just like you, and that AI picks up on it. They know what I like to watch, so they feed it to me constantly. The kids are getting the same feed based on what they like. So are you. You're getting the same feed based on what you like. So if their likeness doesn't align to what you're teaching, and they know there's another alternative story, they're not going to be engaged in your lesson. And that's why you have to give them additional work at home to maybe take up some of that time to change their algorithm so that they can learn their own greatness. It's just common sense. I'm not going to go into the psychological effects, but everybody wants to talk about social emotional learning. I can only imagine what has been the effect of social emotional learning on certain communities, because they had not even been told the truth about a lot of things. And today we still have a bunch of people lining up, politicians and people in the community and even administrators, who are bound by the system and not able to tell the truth in order to maintain their status quo. I can go on and on about that. I don't know if this video is going to even make it to your plate. What I do know is, if I'm in charge of anything in my classroom, and I'm not just saying this because I'm speaking on a video, I'm saying this because it's 100% true, and I have the receipts to back it up. The articles, the awards, the accolades, the videos. If I'm gonna do something and commit my life to it and sign my contract like you did, I'm gonna give 100 of whatever I have, even if it's 65% on that day. I'm gonna be prepared. I'm gonna cooperate and a tip to teachers. If your day is not ready when you leave the building for the next day, you're setting yourself up for failure. As a classroom teacher, all my stuff was done before I left that school building that evening, because I never knew what was gonna pop off during the school day, during my planning time. You don't know what's gonna pop off. Teacher might be sick or absent, gotta cover a class, meeting might be called, parent might show up. Ain't no telling what's gonna happen. So if you're not preparing and making the means for you to prepare before you leave for the school day, you're setting yourself up for failure. And that downtime, and that lost 5 minutes at the end of the lesson, and that lost 5 times 180 instructional minutes. Sounds like 900 to me, that mathematical mind. 900 minutes of instruction lost because you failed to plan your day the day before. When you walk in your classroom in the morning, all you need to do is drink a cup of coffee or tea, green tea if that's your thing, or water or whatever, say your prayers or whatever, your meditation or whatever, and get into it. Yeah, you're gonna have your distractions. You know who the kids are already. You know who's gonna come in there and try to clown. You gotta outsmart them too. But that's why you call those parents early and make that contact. And when those kids get on your nerves, you call them again. The parents gonna get mad. They're gonna get mad. They're gonna say, don't call me, I'm on my job. I can't talk on my job. Why are you calling me on my job? My response was always, ma'am, sir, your kid is acting up on my job right now. It might get you in trouble, I know it. Don't take my advice, I'm sorry. Retract that, I didn't say that. But yeah, that's exactly what I used to say. But back to If you signed up for the teaching job or the coaching job or the administrative job or the principal job or any district office job, any job that you may have signed up for, that you signed your annual contract and you agreed you was going to perform certain tasks, you need to get into it. Eliminating excuses, because your mindset going in is going to determine how good you are. And don't hang around those folks who are going to fall into the typical stereotypes about these people are dumb, these kids don't, these, those. No. When I hear those words out of your mouth, you're a loser. You're sorry. You can't hang with me. Get away from me. That was my attitude. I didn't treat people like that, but that's what I was thinking in my head. Because what I'm going to do, I'm going to come in here, I'm going to bust these math scores on you, and we're going to compete with all the kids in the county, whatever county it was. We're competing. If I'm the principal, we competing. If I'm in charge of something that has to do with kids and I'm signing my contract, we are competing. You ain't going to be looking at my school, in my classroom, at my kids, and talking about, y'all can't do this, y'all can't do that. No. Yes, we can. But you got to have the right mindset. If you don't think you can do it, you ain't going to do it. You ain't going to do it. Not even possible. How you going to do something you don't even think you can do? And nobody can change that mindset but you. And if you're signing your contract and you know you can't do it, you're the problem. At this point, there's no excuse. The at-risk child was born and raised in the minds of adults, not in the minds of kids. Kids do not run this planet. They'll try, but they don't run anything. All they do is run their mouth. I hope y'all continue to have a great conference. I hope this has been informative. I've gone much longer than I thought I would go, but we'll see what happens with this video. Let me turn it around to see if I can at least show myself one time. I don't know if I can or not. I mean, I know I can because I'm getting in the shade here. Maybe not. I'm sure you see my picture somewhere though. Google it. All right, peace.